All right, let's continue with something more interesting. I don't really want to bore you to death, so we will jump to the repeater here and do a little bit of hacking so that you do something exciting. So what you can do with the repeater is to take one request and repeat it. So very clever name. You can repeat requests. And the point is that if you find a request which seems interesting, then you can set it to a repeater and start playing with it one by one. You can just change one parameter and see what's the response. So if you look at the user interface, I have already a request here. And what happens, you have the request here, you click on go, and then you get the response here. So you can always immediately see what the response was. And you can just go back and forth between requests. So you play with the parameter and you change it, and then you get an error message. You can just go back to the status when you still got some valuable response. So repeater is very simple. You just take request and play with it as long as you find a stable attack. What we are gonna do now is we will try to exploit a cross-site scripting attack in the web code, and we'll do that with the repeater. I don't really want to go into details now what the cross-site scripting attack is. You can either look it up here in WebGoat, it's actually described here, or you can Google it a little bit. I will just quickly summarize it now. And if you don't understand, then read a little bit about it. So a cross-site scripting attack is when you can manipulate an input in a request, so an input parameter, and then you get a response, and the input string, what you gave, will be built in the response, the HTML code of the response. And if the server doesn't validate the input parameter correctly, or it doesn't escape the response or the input string in the response, then what you can do is you can put HTML code in this input parameter, and as it will be injected in the response HTML, when it returns to the browser will think that that's also part of the HTML code, and it's going to render it. And what you can also do, you can put JavaScript code inside the HTML what you put in, and then the browser will execute this JavaScript code. And why is that good? So cross-site scripting is like the buffer overflow of web applications. It's at least as widespread as buffer overflow, and it's also as dangerous. So because what you get the ability to execute any kind of JavaScript code in the user's browser. But you can do whatever you want with that. You can try to steal the session cookies or user's credentials to get full access to the application, or you can try to steal data from the application by requesting data from the server and then sending it to your own server, or you can actually load other pages in the background where you can embed some exploits against the browser itself, and with that you can exploit the browser and get full access to the user's computer. So you can do like really a lot of things with cross-site scripting. We are not going to do that. We'll just experiment with that a little bit, but I encourage you to try to imagine scenarios what you could do with a cross-site scripting, what you could do if you can execute JavaScript in the client's application. So what we're going to do is come to in WebGoat to the cross-site scripting and then to the reflected cross-site scripting attack. Reflected means that the input the attack what you put in will be executed immediately in the response. So in the next page, what you get after submitting the data. Okay, so you get this nice input field here. We have quite a few fields what we can exploit. I'm going to take this nice little test string which has like all the weird characters what might be useful in an attack. And I will just paste it here in all input field to see whether any of them is exploitable. And then I'm going to click on purchase. Now you get this nice error message here. And something is weird. You don't see this part of the string, the XSS test there. That's a really good indicator that something is wrong. So we can just open the console. It was Ctrl-Shift-C to open the debugger tool. And then we come here and check it in the HTML code. Oh yeah, all right. You can see it actually here immediately that this is the error message from the server. And you could see that although you put all of this XSS tag here, the browser thought it's a valid HTML tag, so it added the closing tag to it. So the browser thought that was a valid HTML and tried to render it. That's why you don't see the string itself, because the browser rendered it as HTML. That's what we want. This is the most simple example of cross-site scripting. All right, we know that we have something here. And if you just look at the error message a little bit, it says you entered instead of your 3-digit code. So we had to put in our 3-digit code here. So our assumption is that this is the vulnerable form. So I will just put like normal data in for everything else. And click on purchase again. I just did it to have this request in Burp. Now we can come to the proxy and find this request in the proxy. And it's here. You see, here are all the other data. And this is the one which we think is exploitable. Now we right click and say send to repeater. Then the request appears in the repeater. We can try it again. Say go. And then here you can say search for XSS test. So the string what you put in. And now we found a place in the HTML response which is probably vulnerable. Now what we want to do here in repeater is to play a little bit with this parameter. So if I just put here test and I say go and I look for test, there are many tests here. Oh yeah, it was there. Yeah, that seems normal. Now let's try something more useful. I will say script. Actually, you can do it here in the params tab, so that you try it as well. This is the field 1, which we want to test. And we write here script alert 42 script. So if this HTML code is rendered, then this alert 32 will open this default JavaScript alert window with the number 32 in it. That's the most basic proof of concept of a cross-site scripting. And now we can say go again. Yes, and search for alert 32. You can immediately see from the highlighting that even Burp thinks that this is an HTML tag instead of just normal string. So what we want to try, we want to see this now in the browser, whether we really get this this alert window. So we can just come back here to the row request and do right click again. That's also a really cool tool. You can come here to request in browser. You do that when you want to try one request in the browser and you want to see the response in the browser. And you have two options: in original session or in current browser session. The original session means that the request will be sent with this session cookie, what's already in the request here in Burp. And the current browser session mean that Burp will let the browsers attach the cookie to the request, so the cookie will be different. It's good because sometimes you are playing with a request here which is old. It's not for the session what you are playing with right now in your browser, and then you couldn't try it with the old cookie. So then you can just say use the current browser session, and then it will work in your current session. So let's do that. To send the request in browser, you need to load this URL in the browser. What happens in the background is that Burp will know when you're loading this URL, Burp will know which request you want to send, and it will send the request and allow the response to the browser. So I open a new tab, and I'm loading the request or the URL, and ta-da! That's the cross-site scripting. That was the JavaScript code what you're injected. So if we're clicking on OK, then we can inspect the HTML page again. You come here, it says whoops, and here is your script tag what you're injected. So what this essentially means is that if you get the user to submit this request, then you can execute whatever JavaScript you want, and you can do whatever in his browser session what you want and what's possible with JavaScript. So you have like endless possibilities, more or less. Now this time this was pretty simple because we knew immediately what to do. But sometimes when you really want to use the repeater is when the server implements some kind of filtering to protect against cross-site scripting, and then you can come to the repeater and put in one text string like this one, and then just submit it and look at the response, and it turns out that something was filtered. Then you can try something else. You can try like trying to inject an image tag, and let's say load some non-existing image, and and in the on error you can do your JavaScript. And you can try that one, and then you can come here and search for alert, and you will see that okay, script tag was filtered, but the image tag was not filtered. And we can also look at in the browser. Yeah, it was executed again. So in the repeater, you can just play around with the request and try to find the input which really works for you. That's the point. So I recommend you to play a little bit with these cross-site scripting attacks. You can try the other ones here if you're interested. And if you feel comfortable with cross-site scripting and with the repeater itself, then continue to the next section, and we'll check out something else.